Welcome back, deep divers. Okay, so Tyra Banks, back on the Victoria's Secret runway after 19 years. 19. It's giving comeback. It's giving icon. It's giving a whole lot of internet commentary.
It's one of those, like, had to be there moments in pop culture, you know?
Yeah.
We're seeing the return of the Victoria's Secret fashion show, and Tyra back in action at 50. You just knew social media was going to have thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. And you know me. I went down that rabbit hole. We've got your Newsweek article dissecting all the reactions. Plus, I pulled some choice quotes from social media as well. Where else are we going to get this kind of raw honesty?
Right. Let's be honest. This deep dive, it isn't just about a runway walk, is it?
Wow.
It's about how we view women, aging, and the concept of beauty, especially in an industry that's infamous for its, shall we say, particular standards.
Yeah. It's like Tyra's entire career is being held up against the light here. She's gone from Sports Illustrated swimsuit model to Victoria's Secret Angel.
Two, of course.
The queen bee of America's Next Top Model.
And for those who might not have gotten their weekly dose of ANTM drama, Tyra was known for her direct feedback.
Yeah. To put it mildly, it wasn't just like, you're smiling too much. It was full-on critiques about whether a model's look would sell to the customer. It's actually kind of fascinating to go back and watch those moments with fresh eyes, you know, knowing what we know now about body image and representation.
Exactly. There's this fascinating tension because Tyra, for all her fierceness, was still operating within a system that had a very specific, often unattainable standards of beauty.
The Newsweek article actually highlights that tension perfectly. You got one side of the internet, they're like,
Tyra is ageless. She's an inspiration. And then there's the other side.
The side with a very good memory when it comes to ANTM sound bites.
Oh, they came armed with the receipts. There's this one Instagram comment that I think sums it up. I'm afraid she would have ridiculed someone who looked like this on ANTM. Hope she's changed her mentality on who should be on the runway. Oof, that's got to sting, right? To go from being the arbiter of beauty to potentially being judged by her own past standards.
Talk about a full circle moment.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder, even if Tyra has evolved her perspective, is it even possible to be part of that world, that industry, for so long and not internalize some of those pressures?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think it speaks to a larger truth about how we view aging, especially for women. It's like there's this unspoken expectation to either disappear gracefully or fight tooth and nail to maintain the image you had in your 20s and 30s.
Yeah, it's true. Think about how often you hear phrases like aging gracefully or she looks good for her age. It's almost like we're trying to put parameters around how women are allowed to age.
Right. And if you dare to step
outside of those parameters, let's say, by rocking a lingerie look on a runway at 50, well, the court of public opinion is in session. Yeah. And that's where it gets really interesting, right? Because Tyra's situation is forcing us to confront not only our own biases about aging, but also how the standards of beauty have evolved. Think about what the modeling world looked like back when Tyra was first coming out.
It was incredibly homogenous, the early 2000s. When ANTM first premiered, it felt like the peak of the heroin chic era. Ultra thin, almost waif-like was the ideal.
And you can't deny that Tyra, for better or worse, played a role in shaping those perceptions. She was holding the measuring stick, deciding who was in and who was out based on those very specific standards.
And now here she is 2 decades later in a world where body positivity and diversity are finally starting to gain traction.
Right. Which begs the question, where does Tyra fit into this new paradigm? You know, she was a product of her time, absolutely. But she was also a trailblazer in her own right. Let's not forget, she was one of the first Black women to cover Sports Illustrated's swimsuit issue. And become a Victoria's Secret Angel.
Absolutely. And she did it all while facing the added layer of scrutiny that comes with being a Black woman in a predominantly white industry. So it's not as simple as just saying, oh, she used to embody these standards, now she doesn't.
Right, exactly. This isn't about canceling Tyra or putting her in a box. It's about recognizing the complexity of her legacy and how it intersects with these broader conversations about beauty, representation, and aging. It's almost like we're trying to reconcile like the Tyra of the 2000s with her, you know, sharp critiques and focus on a very specific ideal with the Tyra who's now walking the walk, so to speak, in a different era with different values.
And that tension is where things get really fascinating because it's not just about her evolution, is it? It's about ours. How much have we, as a society, truly moved the needle on these issues?
It's like that Instagram comment we talked about earlier. The one questioning if Tyra would even pass muster on ANTM now. By her own past standards, it's like stuck in my head.
It's almost too perfect, isn't it? Like a pop culture Mobius strip. You could practically hear the collective gasp of the internet when she stepped onto that runway.
Totally. And honestly, part of me would love to know what's going through Tyra's head through all of this. Like, imagine if we could put her on a couch, you know, therapy style, and just be like, okay, Tyra, let's unpack this. How do you feel about it all?
Right. Has she had those aha moments, looking back on certain things she said or did, or does she feel like she's being held to an impossible standard in a world that's constantly changing the rules of the game?
Yeah. This whole situation, it's kind of a masterclass in the complexities of public image, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Especially in the age of social media. Where everything you've ever said or done is just a click away.
And it makes you wonder if even someone as seemingly invincible as Tyra Banks can be put in this position. What does it say about the rest of us?
Right.
Are any of us truly immune to the pressures of conforming to whatever the current beauty standards are?
It's a question worth pondering. And on that note, deep divers, I think we've earned ourselves a break. From this particular rabbit hole, we've covered the runway comeback, the internet's reaction, and the larger conversation about evolving beauty standards. But more than anything, I think this deep dive has surfaced something we can all relate to, that constant push and pull between who we were, who we are now, and who we're still becoming.